As the autumn turns to winter and the temperatures drop, it's common to find increasing issues with mould and condensation in properties of all ages and types. But what is it? What can the effects of excessive condensation be, and how can we reduce the likelihood in our homes? I'm Paul Badham, Associate Director at Harris & Clarke, and in this video I'll be letting you know about condensation and giving some practical advice. The air around us contains moisture. Put simply, the warmer the air temperature, the greater a volume of moisture it can contain. When the temperature of the air cools, it can hold less moisture. When warm, moisture-laden air comes into contact with a cold surface, the moisture vapour reverts into a liquid. You might see this as droplets of water forming on surfaces such as glazing, although it may also form in the construction materials themselves. The temperature at which condensation will form is known as the dew point, and this will change based on the relative humidity. Relative humidity is basically the amount of water vapour present in the air expressed as a percentage of the amount needed to achieve total saturation at the same temperature. As a rough, uncalculated example, say at an air temperature of 20 degrees Celsius, with a high relative humidity of 85%, the dew point may be around 17 degrees. Condensation could therefore form on any surface below 17 degrees, which could be quite likely given the small difference in temperature. However, at the same temperature, 20 degrees C, with a lower relative humidity of 55%, the dew point would be around 10 to 11 degrees. Condensation would only form on surfaces with a much lower temperature. The dew point is therefore not static and will depend on the air temperature and the amount of water vapour in the air. Moisture is released into the air through normal activities such as breathing, particularly in more heavily populated buildings, bathing, cooking, and activities such as drying clothes indoors. If the building is not heated or adequately ventilated, this will increase the chance of condensation forming on any surface below the dew point. The average family produces around 12 to 15 litres of water per day just through normal everyday activities. Well, if the building suffers from repeated or persistent condensation, it can provide a suitable condition for mould spores, which are always present in the air around us, to germinate. Mould can quickly cause damage to soft furnishings or decorative finishes. Mould can also increase the risk of asthma and respiratory illnesses in people. Regular cleaning of mould with a suitable fungicidal wash should be made, and wiping down windows to remove water droplets. The key to managing condensation inside the building is to keep the fabric's temperature above the thermal dew point. This can be done by maintaining a reasonable balance between heating and ventilating the building with good quality humidity controlled extract ventilation in kitchen and bathrooms. Using a dehumidifier should be considered if you have no other option than to dry clothes indoors. But remember, this will only tackle the moisture and not the cause of condensation in the first place. To reduce the amount of moisture in the air, we recommend keeping lids on pans when cooking and using only as much water as necessary. When running a bath, put the cold water in first and then top up with hot. This will produce less steam. Where possible, try to avoid drying clothes indoors or on radiators, and if you have no other option, use a dehumidifier or extract ventilation. Install or use extractor fans in kitchen and bathrooms, preferably continuous running or humidity controlled fans. Ventilate the property by keeping trickle ventilators open on windows or open them on opposite sides of the building in the morning, but not for so long that the internal temperature falls substantially. Mould and condensation will normally form in areas where there is reduced air circulation and lower temperatures, so avoid overfilling built-in cupboards and leave space between walls and furniture to allow the air to circulate around them. Use the heating to maintain a low but warm enough temperature to prevent condensation. Use thermostatic control valves on radiators and ensure unoccupied rooms are also adequately heated, which I know may be difficult with increased energy costs. You should also ensure that the property is adequately insulated. This will help keep surfaces above the dew point. Given all of the possible causes, it's easy to see why blame is often attributed to the occupiers of the building. However, there may also be underlying issues with the building construction or defects which can increase moisture levels or facilitate condensation. These might include properties which are difficult to ventilate or heat because of their position or construction, damp ingress from external sources, leaking pipes, or wet insulation, all of which might lower the surface temperature of the walls. If all other means have not resolved the issue, further investigation may be necessary. At Harris & Clarke, we have an experienced and competent team who can assess your property and provide suitable advice for damp and condensation. If you need expert advice for your property, our team of advisors can be reached on 02381 550 051.